everyone, so in today's video, I'm gonna talk about the top 5 things that you should do right after bootcamp. These are all the things that I wish I would have done sooner, or I wish I would have done better right after graduating. So whoever's watching this video, I hope that you can learn from my past mistakes. And yeah, let's just get right into it. Okay, the very first thing I would have done after I graduated is buy a car. Just kidding, the first thing that I would have started doing is actually start planning ahead. Make a list of all the things that you wanna accomplish on your off time, and this is gonna allow you to go into training with a good mindset. You wanna have purpose, you wanna have drive, and you definitely want something that you're motivated towards. I think for me, after I graduated from bootcamp, I had a lot of goals, but I didn't really plan ahead to accomplish any of them. So yeah, you can write this anywhere like a notebook or write it online somewhere. You just wanna make a list of things that you wanna pursue so that when you go back into training and you have some off time, you know exactly what the game plan is. When you come home, you're also gonna wanna take full advantage of your friends and family, because especially if you're active duty, you're probably not gonna see them for a while. Make memories with loved ones and also be an inspiration for all of your younger cousins or brothers or sisters. You never know whose life you could change just by your actions. And I think for me, especially when I saw my brother come back home from boot camp, he turned into a totally different person. You know, he actually made his bed in the morning and he did all this stuff that he never used to do. And it really shocked me because, you know, we grew up doing the same thing our whole lives. And so that really inspired me to also go after the goals in my life. And if you need help coming up with a schedule, I recommend actually using something like ChatGPT. This is an AI tool that you can ask and basically say, hey, I want to do this and this every single day or every week. And then you can just ask it to create a timetable for you. And so basically it's going to time block all the different hours. It's going to tell you exactly what you should do on each hour. This is a super good way of being able to organize your time. And so while you're on boot leave, I think this is the perfect way to maximize your time. The next thing I want to talk about is that you need to stay fit and you can't get complacent. So during this time when you're back home or when you come back and you go to training, there's going to be a lot more off time and you're going to have more freedom. And with this freedom, you know, comes a little bit of complacency. It's really easy for people to get influenced by others and just be like, you know, I'll just skip the workout for today, or, you know, maybe I'll just not go as hard as I did before. And trust me, this is the last thing that you want to do. It's also really easy to go back to your old habits because, I mean, you're going back to either your parents' house or just in the environment that you were before you went to boot camp. So when you come back, think about all the negativity, the bad energy, and just the bad influence on your life, and then try to cut that out. I know in the reserves, it's especially hard because, you know, you're going to training and all this stuff, and then you're going back into the civilian world. And for me, after I finished MOS school, MCT, and all that training, I started doing calisthenics in my backyard for about 1 to 2 months. This is because it was during COVID, and so all the gyms were shut down. And so I stuck with it for a little bit, but, you know, I got tired of it and I stopped doing it after a while. And my mindset was basically, hey, you know, I just went through 3 months of boot camp. You know, I deserve some sort of break or whatever, and I could just get back into fitness later. And this is gonna be a huge regret later on in life. I always wonder, like, hey, if I just kept on grinding, you know, how much stronger could I be now? How much faster could I be? So yeah, I really recommend that you guys don't get complacent. Don't stop working out, still get after it. If you don't, this could lead to, you know, possible injuries while you're working, and it can even lead to separation from the military. I'll tell you a quick story on 2 dudes that I knew. One of them was super skinny, he was super tall as well. And so every time he picked something up, he bent over using his back. And I mean, this guy never did a deadlift in his entire life. So obviously he blew his back out and got separated from the military. And this is only a few months into checking into our unit. This is super sad. You know, I think he had a really promising career ahead of him. So, you know, don't be like him. Do exercises that strengthen your body, you know, strengthen your back, and make sure that you're continuously putting your body under stress so that you can handle stressful environments like military training. There's also another guy who was kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. So this guy was super skinny in MOS school, but then when he checked into our unit, he came like a balloon. I mean, this guy just kept on getting bigger and bigger every single year. I think by the 2nd year, he ended up getting kicked out because he just wouldn't change his habits. And every time that we would try to help him out and we'd try to give him like workouts or, you know, just advice, he would say that he tried everything and it never worked. And I think for those types of people, you can only do so much because at the end of the day, you know, they have to help themselves. But, you know, I think if he never went back to his old habits after he graduated from boot camp and MOS school, I think he definitely would have stayed fit. He would have been able to stay in the Marine Corps, and he would have been able to fulfill his contract honorably. So don't be like him. Don't be like the other guy. You know, don't get complacent and keep getting after it. All right, the next thing that I want to talk about is you need to stay on top of your finances. I've seen so many of my friends, especially in MCT and MOS school, spend money on some of the most ridiculous stuff ever. And so for this, I always tell somebody like, hey, if you want something, think about it for a week. And if you still want it after a week, then yeah, you can consider buying it. And that's only if you can actually afford it 2 to 3 times over. If you can't afford it, then definitely don't put it on a credit card. And yeah, I don't think you should buy it at all. Yeah, there's also many other ways that you can start saving money, such as getting a military phone plan. So I know that T-Mobile has a military Magenta plan. This has tons of perks. I think it has a free Netflix account, and it's also at a huge discount. I think I have 4 people on my plan, so it's just my family, and I'm only paying $100 per month. All you have to do is just submit your military documents, and then they're gonna verify, and you can have a military account. Another thing you're gonna wanna do is open up a Navy Federal account. I recommend to only keep like $100 in your front wave account, and yeah, pretty much never use that ever again. And so yeah, I always tell all my Marines to switch over right away. And yeah, obviously the stereotypical advice is don't buy that new car and don't buy all those new tattoos, especially if you can't afford it. Whatever you're going through, as hard as it may be, just don't spend money on ridiculous stuff. Especially in MOS school, when you start to have weekends off. I saw a lot of Marines go out and spend money on a bunch of different activities. And I think this is fine every once in a while, but you definitely don't want to do it every single week. There's so many other things that I recommend spending money on, such as books or courses or a mentorship. And these will teach you so much and build up some skills that you can actually transfer over to the civilian side. I remember during COVID, I really got into finance and entrepreneurship. And so I was thinking about money and how to make money and save money. And the first book that I actually read was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This is a super good book. This is about a guy who had a rich dad and a poor dad, obviously. I think the poor dad worked like a regular 9 to 5, and then the rich dad owned a business. And so he goes into how he studied both of them, and he saw some of the biggest differences in what they thought about, how they acted, how they spoke, and just how they thought about money and making money in general. So if you're trying to get educated on money or you want to get into business and entrepreneurship, I think that's a really good book to start off with. It opened up my eyes to a lot of stuff that I never learned in school. The next thing I want to talk about is sticking to your schedule. And this is a separate topic on its own because, making a schedule or making a budget is way different than actually sticking to it. So what I like to think about is you want to use all the things that you learned in boot camp and be really hard on yourself. Think of yourself as your own drill instructor and really hold yourself accountable. If you keep working hard and you stick to your schedule and your budget, all of this effort and time is going to compound on itself. And within 1 to 2 years, you're going to be a totally different person living a completely different life. It really only takes 1 to 2 years to completely turn your life around. For me, one of the biggest game changers was when I moved out of my parents' house at 19. This was 2 years ago, and I had to figure out things on my own, but this was good because it forced me to work hard in order to pay for rent. And so I really had no choice but to hustle and make ends meet. It also helped out that I wasn't worried about my parents' schedule anymore. And so this really allowed me to focus on my life. I was completely by myself, and what I did every single hour was totally up to me. I could either slack off or I could work towards my goals or my dreams. You guys, your environment is everything. And this not only applies to when you come back home and you pick up your old habits, but it also applies to when you move out of your home and then build new habits. With a new environment, you could start fresh and you can ideally create a life where you're hustling and you're grinding towards your goals. I don't recommend moving like 10 to 20 minutes away from your parents because this is a little bit close still and they're gonna probably check on you. I actually recommend moving like 30 to 60 minutes away from them so that it's more of a hassle for them to check on you. Right after boot camp, this is where you have the highest motivation, the hardest work ethic that you've ever had, and you have the most potential if you just focus on something. So if I were to go back, I would have definitely worked harder on my goals, and I would have definitely tried to move out sooner in order to focus on my life. Maybe it's just because I was raised in an Asian household, so my parents kind of dictated my whole life. But yeah, if any of you guys are in this situation, I highly recommend move out as soon as you can. And this is not only going to push you to work harder, but it's also going to give you a lot of freedom and time to work on yourself. The last thing I'm going to talk about, and this one is very important, this is investing in a good work laptop. Nowadays, with everything being online, you could really make your first $1 million from a good laptop. I remember during MOS school, I borrowed my dad's old MacBook, and it was super slow. I couldn't get any work done on it. So this was a huge barrier for me, and it made me not want to work every time I opened it up. So if you get yourself a decent MacBook, you can work during your off time. So whether it be after work or on weekends, this is the time that you could use to separate yourself from the people who aren't doing anything with their lives. There's one guy I know, his name is Jabbar. He started getting into real estate at a super young age in the Marine Corps, and nowadays he's financially free and he's only in his young 20s. I guarantee you, he didn't use his off time on the weekends and after work to go party and drink with his friends. He sacrificed and he had the discipline to get all the things done that he needed to do. This is how you're going to be able to accomplish great things. And again, it only takes 1 to 2 years to completely change your life. You're probably watching this because you joined the military and you're also into finance and becoming financially free. And this is how you do it. So, I mean, get a good laptop. I recommend getting any good MacBook Pro. It doesn't have to be brand new. It could be used by like 1 or 2 years. And yeah, this is going to last you like 4 to 5 years, which is plenty of time to start a side hustle or an online business. That's pretty much it for the 5 things that I would have done right after I graduated from boot camp. If you're about to join the military, I hope this video was helpful. And if you're a veteran, please feel free to comment down below on some of the mistakes that you've made. So hopefully somebody else can learn from your mistakes. Yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel so we can get this information out to other military members. So if you know anybody who needs to hear this, go ahead and send this to them as well. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.